How many of you are skiers? Raise your hand if you're a skier. How many of you have come out to Colorado to go skiing, out in Colorado? So you've been to Mary Jane. Mary Jane has like a lot of steep terrain, moguls. I'm skiing with my brother, and again, F-16 fighter pilot, a few years back. And it was a weekday. We were skiing. No one was there. Foot of fresh powder. Beautiful skies. One of those perfect days. We get to the edge of this run. You look down. You can't see the bottom. All right? I look at the sign. It was double black diamond. And the name of the run is called Outhouse. All right? Have you been at the top of Outhouse? Okay, you know why they call it Outhouse, if you know what I'm talking about. You know, where is it, the sucker? Okay. And so here's Curtis. He looks down that same run. He looks at me. He slaps down his shades. He says, watch this. Grabs his poles, and he starts cranking through these moguls. And he's like, finds a perfect line through the moguls. He's smashing through the moguls. People are getting out of the way going, woohoo! He's like flying, boom, boom, boom. Hits a mogul, does a 360 in the air. He lands. He keeps going. Finally, he's out of control. He smashes into a mogul. His skis go flying. His poles go flying. I'm looking over the edge, concerned about my little brother. All of a sudden, he staggers up in the middle of the slope, covered with snow. He's like, excellent, yeah, woo! And then it was my turn. I'm standing there like this. I zip up my parka, put my goggles on, take a couple deep breaths, and I start down that mogul field. Side to side, back. And some of you mogul skiers, like no skiers like me, that we kind of go over the bumps like this, you know. Okay, yeah. Nice stem Christie, got that one. Good, okay, you know. So a half hour later, I get to the middle slope. Curtis is bummed out because he's been waiting for me, and I'm bummed out because I'm not getting to be a better skier. So I'm looking for some help. I ask Curtis, I say, what can I do to become a better skier? And he asked me one question. He said, how many times have you fallen down today? I'm like, no, none, man. I'm not that bad. He's like, you know what? That's your problem. And he took off down the slope. And it was very simplistic, but it was very profound for me that day. I was skiing so tentatively. I was holding back so much that I wasn't falling. But I wasn't getting any better, right? And so I thought about it on the chairlift up. Wow, what are all these other things I've always wanted to do, but I've been afraid to because of the fear of failure or the fear of embarrassment or fear of what other people thought. And how many of you have always wanted to, like, I don't know, run a marathon or try out for a play, whatever. But we don't because we're afraid of failure. And we're not going to miss any shots we don't take, so we stop taking shots. So based on this informal study of us versus those kids, who has more self-esteem, them or us? Yeah, not a lot of self-help books for 5-year-olds, right? Yeah, how to become a better 6-year-old, you know. The 7 healthy habits of a 7-year-old, you know. Here, son, listen to this motivational speech. I mean, you know, they don't need it, right? It's amazing. I was with this group, and there was this little kid there, and all these adults, and I asked the same question. And here's this little kid, when I asked how many of you can paint a picture, his hand's up. So I took the microphone out in the audience. I said, what's your name? And he's like, William. I said, William, how old are you? He's like, I'm 6. I said, William, can you paint a picture? And he's like, yeah. I said, how about all your friends at school? Can they paint a picture? And he's looking at me like, what a stupid question. You know, like, yeah. I said, stand up on this chair. He was an outgoing kid. I said, look at all these adults. You see them all? Most of them said they couldn't paint a picture. Why do you think that is? And I hand him the mic without missing a beat. This kid looks around. He's like, oh, they just don't have their paint supplies. I mean, it didn't even enter his mind that we'd have such low self-esteem, you know, that it's not good or I can't do it anymore or whatever, right? So isn't it interesting? Based on that, I think there's a lot we can learn from kids versus ourselves, right? They laugh 400 times a day, right? They all have their hands up believing, yes, yes, I can, yes, I can. We're all on a plane, in the plane of life. The question of the day, is it going to crash? Yes or no? Yes or no? Probably yes, right? This is a metaphor. The plane of life. We're on the plane of life. Is it going to crash? Yes or no? Eventually. The only 2 things I know out of all there's to not know, 2 things. A, we all die. B, I don't know when. So, if the plane is going to go down, and if it was my last 30 seconds or Charles and I mean, this would be one option. Or the other one would be like, man, I totally love you, man. This is awesome. I love you so much, honey. Let's have fun. I mean, because there's nothing else we can do. And if I get in touch with that trueness, because that's the truth, right? I mean, we all have people in our lives, and I work with victims all over the country after 9/11. It's like we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. What does that make today then? Precious, special. What does it make this speech? Because not knowing. It makes it the most important one in my life. And what makes when I see Charles tonight, we're going to go to a football game. It's going to make this football game tonight the most important football game ever. You know, tucking him in tonight will be the most important tuck in ever. And then tomorrow, the same thing. Does that make sense? Because that is the truth, you know? And it's like, oh, I don't want to think about that, but that's the truth. And I get inspired by that. It's like, this could be it. The only guarantee is right here, right now. But how do we hold ourselves back from right here, right now is unbelievable. So again, what would it take to have every hand up in the room? If we had more time, we'd go through, if I could guarantee this, we'd trust everybody, blah, 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 blah. Or, watch this. On the count of 3, everyone put your hand up. 1, 2, 3, go. Everyone put your hand up. Now keep your hand up. Now what's possible when we all have our hands up? What's possible from this posture from all of us? What is it? Anything and everything. It's like what you were saying. I love that. What we said, say yes. What was the thing?
Well, the answer is yes. What's the question?
Yeah, the answer is yes. What's the question? How can we relate this to this? This is great. I don't have to think about that. It's too much for me. But the answer is I'm willing. What am I willing to do? This just implies willingness, just with your hand up right now. Just willingness, hands down. So it doesn't take this, 18 books and several motivational speak. What would it take to have every hand up? Just put your hand up. That's all it takes, right? And so many of our tasks in life are like that. Just like, what does it take to do it? Just do it. And I could go on and on about these qualities, but there's one in particular, there's another great one, is that we teach differences. There was a second grade classroom, and they were seeing slides of different ethnic backgrounds. And so the teacher was showing a Latino family, and here's an African-American family. And when they got to African-American family, one of the boys said, Mrs. Jones, Henry's African-American. He's African-American. This little kid was so excited. Here was this white boy and this black boy. They had been friends for 4 years. And they saw now there's a difference. And so it's amazing what children, the purity of children, can teach us all. Like 99.9% of who you and I are is the same. We have the same worries, the same fears, the same concerns about our family. We want to get along. We want things to go all right. You know, we love people. And then we build these guards up as we grow up, these walls. And it's something. And when I was at Columbine High School, and you know who's still there? Talk about leadership. Frank DeAngelis, the principal that was there, and you remember it was 9 years ago, that first school shooting in Columbine, which was about 20 miles from where I live. And Frank is still there. He's still the principal there. And he was... and I've gotten to know him over the years, and we play golf together now, and just a wonderful man. But last time I was there was a year ago, February, and I donate my time to these groups and other schools like this, and so he went to introduce me, and there's 2,000 kids, and there was seats in the gymnasium, and he got up there and he said, you guys weren't here, but I want to tell you what it was like 2 months after the tragedy. Kids were walking around, and they were so scared, and they weren't able to be kids. And as he was starting to say what it was like then, he started tearing up. And he says, I remember where I was sitting. And he started tearing up. And the cool thing about Frank is that he didn't go, okay, I'm fine. Oh, yeah. That he allowed it. And what a better example for those stoic adolescent males than having this grown man be okay being a human being. It's okay to cry, and 10 minutes later we're laughing, and it's okay to laugh. And then he introduced me, and I was moved by it because it reminded me of the fear that I felt that morning addressing this group of kids going through such a tremendous, horrendous tragedy, being in the library where kids were shot, everything. And it brought tears to my eyes. And when he introduced me, I stepped forward, and I didn't know what to say. And for about 30 seconds, I just kind of sat there or stood there. And then Frank and I hugged a little bit, and none of the kids said anything. They were okay with that. They were totally okay with that. And in retrospect, I look back and go, that probably taught them more than any mental health professional, and they had lots of them, at the time, than just being able to say it's okay to laugh, it's okay to cry, and just give validation to the emotions that we all have, and not pretend. Again, because who's the most authentic group of people you know? Us or kids? Kids. And what would it take for us to be more authentic and be more direct with one another? We're the pilots. We're the pilots in the room, okay? Is there a yeah. Here's my theory. Here's my theory on pilots. You know, they get up there, and it's, you know, yeah, woohoo! They're like, woohoo, yeah! That's it, man. They get up to 36,000 feet, and they're like, folks, seatbelt sign is on. Feel free to, you know, unbuckle, and if you're sitting down, keep that belt buckled and enjoy the 2.5-hour flight to Seattle. You know, I think it's just like 15 minutes goes by, you know, half hour, 45 minutes, an hour goes by, hour and 15, they're like, should we do it? Yeah, let's do it. Folks, we got turbulence. Please sit down. You guys are just messing with us, man. The point is, I, like you, go through life like this. Oftentimes. Woohoo! And someone says, were you giving it your all, Craig? And I'm like, yeah. But I love my friends that know me better and hold me accountable and say, no, I think you have more in you. And I think all of us have more in us, and we play it safe. Because we're afraid of these ridiculously psychological things like embarrassment, fear of failure, all these things, because there's only two we're born with. So we need to unlearn some of these fears that keep us from living the life we want, having more joy like those kids, having more success in our lives, and it's just fear. So what's getting in the way for you of having a bigger purpose? And let that purpose drive you instead of your personality. It's my personality that's worried about, oh, how do I look? Does everyone look at me? Do I have something on my nose? Da, da, da. You know, I'm walking through this casino in Vegas. This dude's walking like this with his arm behind him. Trailing him about 5 feet was this woman. Her arm is out like this. I happen to be at the right place at the right time. Total stranger. I reach out for this dude's hand, squeezes my hand, and continues walking through the casino. I'm back here like, okay. His wife starts cracking up. Grab her hand. Here we go. Only in Vegas, right? After about 2 minutes, I think he's realizing my hand is larger than his wife's. He stops, and he slowly turns around. Yeah! Oh, him and his wife, they were visiting America. They are from Japan, okay? So the look on his face, we're both cracking up and saying, you funny American, okay. We went out and had a nice drink. Couple more to that story. How many times in life does opportunity walk by? And we say, oh, I can't do it this time, maybe next time, someday, etc. Grab that opportunity. Every single day, there's an opportunity. And we got to be willing to grab them. And the only thing, let's go back to the metaphor of the plane. When my son was on that plane, let's say we're on the plane of life, okay? This is the plane of life today. Beautiful plane as it is, with cocktails and nice hors d'oeuvres and great salads. Nice plane of life. Sometimes it's cruising along, and sometimes we hit turbulence. And for a lot of us, last year, the year before, kind of turbulent, right? And again, who's in charge of your freak out or not freak out is yourself. But let me ask you this, is the plane going to crash, yes or no? The plane of life. Who said yes? Who said that? Because you know what? You're right, sir. You are absolutely right. The plane of life is going to crash. Two things I know, and this is all I know. Number one, Craig, you and I are going to die. Number two, I don't know when. Do you? And if I get that, what does it make today? It makes it great. Like, it makes the day, like, what am I holding back for? Like, man, I'm going to call my son and say, man, I love you, dude. I'm going to do whatever it takes to make amends with people that I've pissed off. I'm going to do that thing because this is it. This is truly it. And how do we live powerfully now is the most important thing. Because again, kids live in the moment. They know how to do that. When I was at Columbine High School, after their tragedy, you know, I talked to these kids. You know, there's stuff going on all over the world. But the cool part was, talk about leadership, the principle, Frank, is still the same principle that was there, you know, 11 years ago when that happened. And I lost my sister 26 years ago. And, you know, I spoke in D.C. not too long ago, right after lunch, and a big old cracker flew out of my mouth. Does that ever happen to you? You're talking to someone? And it was right, I was introduced, all these people with ties, big, you know, serious group, and this cracker flew out, honest to God. And what's your name? What is it? Rosaline. Right where Rosaline is sitting was a woman, and she had big poofy hair. I'm not making this up. The cracker flew out, landed on her head. I figured, A, I could ignore it, but everyone would be watching her head the whole speech. B, I could nonchalantly swat it off her head. Or C, I could ask for it back. So I got a lot of leeway in my job. I said, ma'am, you got something in mind? She's like, what are you talking about? She's all said, I grabbed the cracker. I said, thank you very much. Put it in my mouth, continue my speech. Thank you. Thank you very much. But the point is this. You know, after what happened in my family, and a lot of people in here that have had loss, you know, you learn something. Like a cracker flying out of my mouth does not mean Jack. It doesn't. There's bigger things to be concerned about. Does that make sense? But we forget about that, and kids aren't so influenced by that. So again, I look at those kids. What are the qualities we had? We got to get rid of some of those fears. How we do that is by intentionally putting ourselves in situations where we might feel like you felt when you came up here. Because, first of all, you're teaching us all to be courageous, because, you know. And secondly, you're going to get used to it, and it's no big deal after a while. When I was at Fort Stewart, I brought up a soldier. This guy was scared to death to do exactly what you did. And I asked him, were you carrying a gun in Baghdad? He said, yes, sir. He had 2 tours of duty in Baghdad. I said, did you carry a gun? He said, yes, sir. I said, what's scarier, standing up here right now or carrying a gun in Baghdad? And what did the guy tell me? Stand up there right now. That's how big some of these made-up fears are. So being playful is going to help us. Being able to you know, have fun what you're doing. 2 groups. This group over here, I ask you to raise your quota by 25% next quarter. This group over here, I say, I want you to have more fun selling real estate than you've ever had in your life. Guess what? Who ended up selling more homes? This group did. In this controlled study, it was unbelievable. Because I want to hang out with people that are having fun. But they're taking their jobs. I don't want people like blowing my, you know, say they're going to meet at 5 and they show up, oh, I'm just having fun, drinking beer, you know. I'm not talking about that. Some of you guys, okay, yeah, cross out that note, my man. You know what I'm saying? Have fun doing what you're doing. And how would that help you in your success? Twofold. Number one, success begets success. Fun begets fun, right? And they're not mutually exclusive. They are not mutually exclusive. Watch what fear does to us. Everyone close your eyes right now. Close your eyes right now. Think of the most embarrassing moment of your entire life right now, okay? Now I'm walking around the room, and I'm going to tap a couple of you on the shoulder. And if I tap your shoulder, I want you to come to the front of the room and just briefly, keep your eyes closed. If your eyes are open, I'm definitely going to tap you. Keep your eyes closed. Think of the most embarrassing moment of your life with your eyes closed. And if I tap your shoulder, you're going to come to the front of the room and share that most embarrassing moment with the entire group. Okay, let's get some people over here on this side of the room. Okay, a couple of people over here, a couple more people. If your eyes are open, I'm going to find you. I'm going to find you and get you. Okay. All right, open up your eyes. Nice job. Who are the people I just tapped? Raise your hand, please. I'm always waiting for some wise guy to tap his partner. Yep, you got me. You got me. So I didn't tap anyone. But what happened? What happened when I said I might tap your shoulder? What happened? Okay, so you had some anxiety. How many of you had this predominant thought that became, don't tap me, don't tap me, don't tap me, don't tap me? Huh? How about this one? Man, I'm going to have to lie. I can't tell that one. I'm not going to. Right? Yeah, she's like, yeah, that one for sure. So that is what fear does to us. It keeps us, I cannot be in fear and creativity at the same time. They are mutually exclusive. I cannot be all like this. And you see how we operate as an individual and sometimes collectively as an organization? Like this. Oh, here comes the boss. Oh my gosh, walking on eggshells, looking good, instead of trying to be authentic and real. If I would have given you more time, let me ask you this. If I said, I'll give you 5 minutes, go into the hall and think about it. You want to come up and speak? You probably left, right? So sometimes thinking gets in the way of action. Leadership is about action. Is leadership more of a noun or a verb? Is it more of a noun or a verb? I know it's what the hell are you talking about? It's a verb. It's about action. A noun is my personality. Lisa, what are we afraid of as adults? Being embarrassed. You know how much energy it takes to not be embarrassed? Think about it. What if instead of trying so hard not to be embarrassed, what if we made it okay to be embarrassed? I mean, kids are honest. If I was talking right now with a big old dangler hanging out of my nose, okay? I guarantee you, as adults, you'd be thinking, oh my, that guy's a loser. One of the number one fears for us adults, right, is public speaking. How many of you are scared to death to talk in front of a group? Raise your hand. Okay, come on up and tell us why. I'm just kidding. Lisa, what are we afraid of as adults? Being embarrassed. You know how much energy it takes to not be embarrassed? Think about it. Instead, what if instead of trying so hard not to be embarrassed, what if we made it okay to be embarrassed? I mean, kids are honest. If I was talking right now with a big old dangler hanging out of my nose, okay? I guarantee you, as adults, you'd be thinking, oh man, that guy's a loser. One of the number one fears for us adults, right, is public speaking. How many of you are scared to death to talk in front of a group? Raise your hand. Okay, come on up and tell us why. I'm just kidding. I would say, how many different languages do we speak in this room? And this particular conference, there were 16. We had all afternoon. So I said, all right, I want you up on the stage, you up on the stage. So 16 different nationalities on the stage. Now I had everyone else close your eyes. And I want you to laugh in your native language. And your job is to guess where they're from. Guess what? They all laugh the same. That laughter is a universal language, right? I was in Vegas. How many have been out to Vegas before? Speaking of, you could do a whole sociological study of people in Las Vegas, right? It's just amazing out there. So I'm at this Caesar's Palace, and there's these statues that come to life every hour. You know, those, I'm Caesar. 300 people gather around, and they're taking pictures. At the conclusion of these statues moving, people just kind of dissipate and walk away. Well, I started like going, yeah. Now, people that were walking now feel this obligation. All of a sudden, they're like, before you know it, we had all 300 people applauding these inanimate objects, you know. And you know how something's funny for a while, then it gets old, but there's another layer if you just persist. So if you keep a straight face, man, we were just going for it. There's about 30 people afraid to leave us by ourselves, you know. Like, don't leave and as they're trying to leave, I'm kind of going like this. Finally, this guy's all bent out of shape. He's like, I don't think they're coming back for an encore. I'm like, whoa. Well, later on that day, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity happened. I'm walking along, and as adults, we're always in a hurry. We miss opportunities. There's this dude who's walking through this casino like this, in a hurry to go somewhere. Trailing him about 5 feet was this woman. Her arm was out like this. I happened to be at the right place at the right time. I reach out for this dude's hand. Total stranger. Squeezes my hand and continues walking through the casino. I'm back here like this. His wife here we go, 3 of us. After about 2 minutes, I think he's realizing my hand is larger than his wife's. He stops, and he slowly turns around. He's like, ah! Oh, and I forgot to teach it. Him and his wife were visiting America. They are from Japan, okay? So the look on his face, his wife and I were cracking up. He's like, you funny American, okay. Now do this, raise your right arm real quick. Raise your right arm, quick exercise. All right, lower your right arm, raise your left arm. Lower your left arm, raise your right arm again. Okay, so it's easy to take care of ourselves. Now, at your tables, hold hands. Here we go, hold hands. I know this is gonna be a big push for some of you dudes. Hold hands, all right? Are you ready? Oh, these guys are even standing. Okay, with your hands clasped, I want you to raise your right arm. Lower your right arm. Raise your left arm. Lower your left arm. How many of you are struggling right now? And I think the main antidote is this, let's not take ourselves too seriously in this process. That together, when we did the stand ovation with all of us, there's so much more energy. When all our arms are up, we got to be willing, though, to have the courage. Because we get so caught up in the how-to that we forget about the want-to. You're going to have, how do we do this? How do we do this? If you want to lose weight, there's 100 ways you can figure it out on Google. Google how to lose weight, there's a million ways. But without the want-to, you won't. If I said I'll give you $1 million to lose 10 pounds in 30 days, how many of you would do it? All of a sudden, you got to want to. So we got to get behind the want-to of this diversity. Are you guys with me here? So anyway, I got a couple books. I got some things for you. Everyone, I hope, can take home one of these. It's a little reminder of what we talked about today, some of the qualities we had when we were kids and how to get those back. Thanks for having me. I hope you have a great rest of the conference, and God bless. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, man. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Here, have one of these books. That's for you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.